Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series Accidentally Adopted. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 2. Journal Entry. To date, Day 1, I guess. Name, Greg George. Mission successful. My flim-flam golly gosh, I am the goddamned master of skulkery. Hell yeah! Dr. Johann says that it is important to be honest with your feelings in your sanity journal, and I feel like gloating. So first thing is the color. The Bleevuses are tall. Tall! Come to think of it, the girl from the cell incident towered over me while I was huddled in the corner. I know it was a kennel, but calling it a cell makes me feel better. Dr. Johann isn't here to be disappointed in me, so I'm going to keep calling it a cell. Shut up, internal therapist voice. Anyways, door. I think the Bleevuses girl would have reached up to about her shoulder level to grab the door handle. I had to hop. Now, this being the first time I was fully sober and trying to move deliberately, I did a normal hop. This was an error. I flipping flew up to the top of the door jamb. I was so surprised that I grabbed the trim and just hung there for a second, and only thought about drop ambushing my hosts and shouting "Boo!" at them for a little bit. I allowed myself a quiet chuckle, habits and all that, and dropped down to the floor, grabbing the handle on the way down. Hell yeah! Took a minute to examine the door, and it looks like a normal hollow door with a spring-loaded latch. I couldn't find a lock, but if this is highly advanced alien society has figured out screwdrivers, then that could very easily change. I'll need a contingency. Objective added, find long, thin, rigid object. Outside was a hallway, and a glance down towards the open archway got a very clear view of what looked very much like a cartoon. I couldn't tell what was going on, but 2D stylized Bleevuses was making a bunch of humming and clicking noises in what seemed like a rhythm. I could see the outline of a Bleevus in the front of the, I guess it's a TV? Although, from there it seems like was actual depths to the cartoon. And interesting as alien educational cartoons and how freaking weird they looked when I moved from side to side were, I was more interested in the 4 doors before me going down the hall. There were 2 on the left and 2 on the right. Door number 1 on the left was obviously a bathroom, if the big glistening pastel pink tub with a spout sticking out of the wall directly across the door was anything to go by. When I stepped across the threshold, the change in texture from the slightly rough and a little giving to the polished and slick prompted me to look down at the floor. Either the floor in this hall was wood or some kind of high-tech substance, where the bathroom felt like some kind of enameled metal. It was cold like enameled metal anyway. To the right was a basin that stood just above my outstretched fingertips, and I could see there was some kind of spout and a handle to either side. So I was pretty sure it was a sink, and to the left was a long depression in the floor with standing water at the bottom and a button on the wall at just about my eye level on the wall behind it. Great. I'll have to squat for the necessaries. Anyway, I didn't feel like rooting around in the cabinets and drawers along the sink wall, so I just fiddled with the lever over the tub spout. Contrary to all good sense, pushing the lever towards the wall got the water running, and turning it to the right was for hot water. Insane. I shut the tap off without trying to figure out how to divert the water to the showerhead and slotted brackets on the wall. It looked like it was meant to be used as a wand or a showerhead, but without jumping up to grab it, it was useless to me. A glance down the hall told me that nobody was suspicious, or coming to check on the puppy, or going to the bathroom. Putting me in the back of the hall was actually tactically sound of the Bleevuses, since I'd have to creep by every potential occupied space. Somehow, I doubt they did that on purpose. The Bleevus outline was kind of slumped, like they were bored of the show. I feel you, kid. I remember waiting for the crappy kiddie shows to end so the proper cartoons could start. Sympathies aside, it was time to try a door on the right, number 1. This turned out to be a master bedroom. Well, there was a massive bed dominating the space, and the massive floor-to-ceiling chest of drawers and wardrobe along the wall opposite the foot of the bed. A minor detail that I found just a teensy bit disquieting was the overhead storage cabinets on the other walls, including the door side wall. I decided not to root through the tidy room because obviously they'd notice, and I hadn't decided whether I was behind enemy lines or not. I just backed out into the hall and shot a glance towards the end to make sure the board outline was still slumped towards the weird TV. And then glanced upwards to confirm my suspicions. Yep, that was more overhead storage. It was starting to feel like I was in an alien RV, which had implications I'd worry about after completing my current mission. Door number 2 on the left was much more promising, untidy and festooned with plastic and plush objects I was pretty sure were toys. Maybe the Beavis girl was a toddler. Well, if she was, she had rapidly outgrown her clothes, since when I picked up a pair of what were probably pajama trousers from the neatly folded pile of clothes on the rumpled bed set into the wall, I noticed that they'd fit me. Well, they were far from a perfect fit, since the cuffs rode up about halfway between my knees and ankles, and were a tad tight about my thighs, and had an uncomfortable draft about the back on account of the hole for the kid's tail. So I followed my training and yoinked a second pair to wear backwards. Problem solved with a minimal effort. I dropped my blanket to be able to move more freely, but got chilly while searching for anything that would fit my secondary mission objective. Another easy solution. All I had to do was nab a soft shirt on the top of the pile. I pulled the extra sleeves inside of the shirt for obvious reasons, and went to rummage through the cabin mates and drawers built into the walls, as well as the other berth, which was apparently just a place far more stuffed with toys. I don't care how silly I looked in toddler pajamas, they were soft, warm, and didn't drag on the ground like my trusty blanket, all of which were important on account of my lack of proper underpants, how chilly they kept the place, and my desire to sneakify. Door number 2 on the right was obviously the Believer's girl's room. There was only one berth, and any cabinet door big enough had a poster of the same group of 5 male Believerses in tattered clothes, gaudy bling, and making aggressively stupid poses towards the camera. God save me, my rescuer's into alien boy bands. I hope they don't suck as bad as Earth boy bands. I gave her a room the once over, but I don't find anything immediately useful. But apparently she was into sketching. If the supplies piled haphazardly on the desk against the wall opposite to the door was anything to go by. I didn't know how to judge talent in her culture, but I thought that she was talented for a 13-year-old or so. I'm glad to find the supplies, since it means that her parents cared enough to encourage her talent and interests, which boded well for my treatment. God, I hope this isn't a sick joke or a dream or whatever before I get chucked back into the arena. Whatever. Time to take my cheeky peeky for the sneaky breaky. So, looks like the bored kiddo is sitting on the floor in front of a weird TV still. Holy crap, the thing was stupidly huge. Like, takes up half the fecking wall huge, and the room in front of me was like 5 yards wider than the left and right side rooms, plus the hallway combined. Oh, and on the other side of the hallway were these huge-ass sofas, which was convenient for me because the likewise huge space between their backs and the wall was perfectly me-wriggling-sized. This way, I could avoid Beavis' mom or mom, because that's shorter, who was keeping half an eye on the toddler from the other sofa. I went right and peered out from the shadows to gauge my prospects. The dad one was doing something with what looked like a holographic interface at a desk tucked into the corner to my left. He looked pretty intent, so whatever he was working on must have been important to him. To my right, there was a long table with a bunch of beaver-sized chairs around it. I tensed and then sprang forward, but on a shallow angle. I'm a stealth god in low G. I was in the open in less than a second and was able to quietly roll to a stop without even jostling one of the chairs. At the other end of the table, I saw my next challenge, Believer's girl, who I've decided to henceforth call Lucy, on account of it's the first girl name that popped up. I'm fresh out of standard issue crayons, so she's doing something going between what looks a lot like a kitchen sink and a cooktop. The only cabinet with seals around the doors was just a little bit obviously the fridge, and my best bet for something edible. A stealthy glance upward, and I could see more overhead cabinets with nice big sturdy looking handles. Nice! Ever so slowly, I crept for the fridge, and upon opening the left side, I found it full of fruit, with a spattering of vegetables. At least the colorful round things looked vaguely fruity to me. Promising. Thinking quickly, I tied the ends of the extra sheets shut for some makeshift pockets and stuffed half a dozen different fruits down them. I avoided the foul-smelling ones and let the fridge close with a light thump. Lucy heard it and looked in time to stare at the fridge in puzzlement, while I laid on the seats of the chairs to be more deeply shadowed. When she turned back to whatever she was up to, I slunk over to the other end of the table to check on the dad. He hadn't moved. By the time I was at the kitchen end, Lucy had poured something into a wide shallow bowl and was carrying it towards the TV area. So it was a perfect opportunity for me to see if there was anything useful laying loose. One quick hop onto the table later, and I saw gold. A yellow plastic knife. Not a disposable one, but one of those ones for little kids to practice using silverware with. Which means that it won't be missed, and if it's found in my closet, the toddler will get the blame and face no trouble for it. Probably. I briefly thought about arming myself, but rejected it on the grounds that the kitchen knife going missing would be a big deal. It was easy for me to silently leap the gap from the table to collect my prize, but I wasn't home free yet. The cartoon noise stopped. The agitated humming, buzzing, and clicking started. I could tell that it was agitated because the dad tore his attention away from his holograms and joined in the noise party. Fortunately, I had leapt up to grab one of the handles the second the noise profile had changed, so I escaped his notice. I shimmied from cupboard handle to cupboard handle like I was a prince of goddamn Persia, giddy with my low G capabilities, until I could sort of angle to see the family meeting going on. Lucy looked upset. Her arms were waving around, and she was clutching my blanket in one of her hands, while Mom made slower humming and buzzing noises and placating gestures with all four hands. Then Dad pointed at the door and said something with a confident posture, while the toddler, Linus, because it goes with Lucy, seemed to be on the verge of tears. I was starting to feel a tad bit guilty. But Lucy calmed down and bobbed her head up and down right before they all broke up and started looking around. The funny thing is, all four of them were looking down low, and on Earth, that would have definitely been the thing to do, because lurking about the overhead storage was downright feat of strength in 1G. However, due to factors they had no way of knowing, I was able to swing from handle to handle all the way back into the hallway, where it was just a matter of waiting a few seconds for Lucy and Linus to scamper from the bathroom to his room. Then it was a simple matter of dropping to the floor and stepping through the conveniently open closet door. Lucy had even helpfully put my blanket on my pillow for me. Mission successful. Hell yeah! Log 6,000,008.20. Personal, Captain Yomdrill. Today was rough. Stars save us what some people would do to other living creatures. It's enough to turn the stomach. So we got the poor creature squared away in the old storage closet, which frankly should have been cleared out years ago. But I put it off, just in case I might need T-tin full of mismatched fasteners, or the docu-box full of old robotics paper mags. Well, tossing the mags hurt a little, but they were in such poor condition there was no point in keeping them. But I'm going off on a tangent. Sweetie, I know you're reading this, so I'm going to give you a warning. It was really, really bad, and you'll see why Mom and I didn't tell you about it. I started with a medical report from the shelter's initial scan, bruising all over its face, arms, and torso, and even some to its knees and tops of its feet. Its hands had repeated microfractures, as did its ribs and forearms and kneecaps. I was honestly shocked it didn't die from the pain and so many repeated blunt trauma injuries. It seemed like its saving grace is how dense the bones are. I'm a pilot and a captain, not a biologist, but any blow with that much bruises I've ever seen has broken bones. But worse is that it had electrical burns about its neck. There were some details that might be useful in making the poor creature comfortable, such as the shelter theorizing that it had omnivore dentation and digestion. Hopefully we have something on hand that it can digest, and finding it is Trandy's mission. She's starting with making vunum since it was usually for the infirm. I warned her that her first try might not be successful, and she assured me that she wouldn't give up after one try. Some other interesting things. Apparently, it secretes oils on its skins, so regular bathing will be needed. It can self-regulate by secreting saline, indicating that it is adapted to warm environments or sustained exertion. So maybe we should get her more blankets, I guess. I'm not an expert on this kind of thing. Then I watched part of this embedded video. The video was from the perspective of a helmet camera, so the officer's manipulator appendages gripping a stun rifle were in view. In this case, a trio of tentacles with 3 appendages at the ends. The camera showed the officer was in the middle of a stack up for a door breach in a dynamic entry as somebody counted down from 5 from out of view. There was a muted button as the door was blown open, and the stack filed in screaming variations of get on the ground and drop your weapons. Once the squad spread out, the camera got view of the room, which was a lattice of walkway surrounding pits in the floor about 4 feet square by 10 feet deep. Grav, 2 stand and move with caution. But the officers seemed to be able to move at a great enough speed to quickly incapacitate the group of googly-eyed bipedal lizard gangsters. The officer looked into one of the pits, and the camera showed a quadrupedal mammal with large curled horns and a long split tail up to its ankles in cleaning solution, struggling to stand on obviously swollen legs. It bleated in distress, and the officer lost its lunch on the floor. End video. I really couldn't bear to see the creature we adopted in those conditions, so I stopped it there. Just knowing that living a being would have endured such fetid conditions was harrowing enough. However, things got even more stressful when Trandy went to try feed it, and it had vanished from the storage closet. She was distraught, nearly in tears, and clutching the blanket from the shelter.
Daddy, he's gone. I'd looked in the rooms already. Well, what if he hurt himself? What if he's trapped? He's probably scared and all alone.
Yovdrul was starting to get upset too, and I could see tears welling up, but Trevdy came in clutched like a wonderful mother she is.
He's in a new place, sweetie. He probably just wanted to look around. And think about how little he is. He could be taking a nap pretty much anywhere and be hard to notice.
Besides, I interjected, hoping to add a little stability, it can't go through the bulkhead since the biometric scan won't work. She stiffened her lip and shook the tears from her eyes and said,
Okay, small. I'll take Yovdrul and we'll check the cabinets and cubby holes. Maybe he wanted a smaller den.
Clever girl. Travdy and I searched the living and kitchen areas, and I got an earful. I know what you're doing, she chided me gently. Gently, but still I bristled. So what am I doing? Because I think I'm looking under the table for Trandy's pet.
Heart, you know what you're doing, and you know I don't mean physically right now. Is that how our children should deal with taking on something painful?
You know I was against pets at all. And this, stars Travdy, it was brutal.
And how does remaining detached change that?
All right. I certainly don't want to be called example, but
My love, I do not expect you to cuddle him in his den. Just try calling him a he and not an it.
You're right. I think I can manage that much.
Mom, Dad, he's not anywhere.
We made our way back to the hallway to help the kids through a more thorough check, and what do we see? What else besides the creature sleeping on his bed under the blanket from the shelter? Void, take me.
Daddy said a bad word,
Yovdrul very helpfully pointed out. I think that door needs a lock, I mused. I don't think I can handle a scan like that again. Well, everyone knows how that argument went. I'm sure we all think that it was memorable. Me against Tandy in her first real argument, and her opponent not going easy on her. And in regards to her halfway gift, no less. For the record, you did very well, and you did get me to concede that cooping him up in there would be needlessly cruel, which is why you were in charge of when it's locked and unlocked. Dear Diary, I don't think I like growing up anymore. Like you spend your whole little years looking forward to your halfway gift, but it's not just getting something cool or cute or whatever. You have to take care of it. I thought I understood, but now I know better. Today was the scariest thing that ever happened in my whole life. So yesterday was my halfway and we were on station so Mom could do her thing. She and Daddy were pretty happy, so I think the cargo she sold here went for a good price.
Anyways, Daddy's trying to get me to go to the robot store, but he's the one who likes robots. Not me. I mean, I like working on some of the maintenance spots with him, but that's 'cause it's fun work with Daddy, not the stupid robot stuck in a scroll space again. So anyway, Mom finally convinced him that I should have a pet, since a living thing can love you back, unlike a dumb robot. The shelter was really sad, and I don't know why I wanted to look at the adult animals first. I just think it's that people always went the babies, but sometimes the grown-up animals never leave. Some of them were trying to scare us away from the kennels, so I knew Daddy would say no to them. But then I saw him. I learned that he was a him a little later, but that doesn't matter. He just had that cutest face, the right number of eyes, round ear, and pretty pink skin, except for the dark splotches on his cheeks and around one eye. And like there was red mane of hair. I couldn't really see anything else, since he was all cocooned in the blanket the shelter gave him. The shelter guy said that nobody could even get close to him, but he looked so sad that I just had to try. To let me in, and not only did he not run away like that for everybody else, but he reached out to me. That's how I knew I couldn't leave him there, even if he would, here there are some words forcefully scribbling out, not make it. But that's all just a setup. We got him home and put him in the old storage room with a nice soft bed and a blanket from the shelter. I think the shelter people must have given him a sedative, because he didn't wake up, even when Daddy pulled him out of the transport crate. So everything was going smooth, and Daddy told me about how maybe he can eat fruits. So I got the idea to make Vumnoon for him, since it's supposed to be easy to digest for sick people. Should work for cute little Lima, right? But when I was cooking, he disappeared. Poof! Gone. Seriously, after I couldn't find him, the whole family looked everywhere, even Yoiv. I honestly thought that I should take him room to room looking for the little guy. I was super scared, because I just learned about how sometimes a pack animal will go away to find a quiet place to lay down and, here there are more words scribbled out more forcibly, not get up again. But Mom and Daddy thought that maybe he was just looking around the quarters, or wanted a smaller den to feel safe. But we found him right in his bed. Oh, and he put the bed up on one of the old shelves. So I think lemurs like him don't like to sleep on the ground. Daddy cursed real bad when he saw, then said he wants to lock him in the closet. It was my first real argument, and I could tell that Daddy was going after my points like I was a grown-up, so I had to think fast about how to defend what I was saying. I think I won. Kinda. It's my job to make sure the door is locked when it's important for Sneak to stay out. That's his name, I decided. Plus, it'll make writing about him easier with a name. I hope that I can get Sneak to walk around the quarters a little. But maybe he just needs to get comfy with it. End of chapter. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters. Bushmaster117, Casper Arnholtz, Dragzoon W.R.E, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, Jon Creighton, and Sevaren Serberous. Thank you very much.